I smelled rain before I saw it, that metallic hush that turns air into a held breath. Andrew idled his Mercedes between weeds punching through broken asphalt and the boarded windows of a defunct visitors center with a sun-bleached map of Minnesota still bolted to a rotting kiosk. "Get out," he said, and did not kill the engine. "You need a lesson, Amanda." He liked my name in his mouth on nights like this. He liked it because he had learned to use it like a line item on a ledger: cost, benefit, risk. He meant to spend me and write off the loss. "How far is it?" I asked, keeping my voice soft, like he preferred on anniversaries and fundraisers and mornings he needed a clean runway to take off into his day. 37 miles. He smiled the way men in glossy magazines smile when they are photographed beside cars that do not belong to them yet. "Walk it. Maybe you will remember who manages the money in this family." 3 hours earlier, we had ordered Chateaubriand at Morton's and toasted to another year. I wore pearls and a dress he chose because it said the right thing to his clients. I had lifted my glass and thought about the single pearl in my jewelry box at home missing its mate. Something about the way Nain laughed has always sounded like a bracelet you know you should not have bought. I opened the door and felt air move heavy against my skin. The first drop dimpled the dust. I looked at Andrew the way you look at a childhood photograph and try to remember what that child was about to say. "Are you sure?" I asked. He took his hand off the wheel long enough to drum 3 fingers, a habit that meant he wanted me to feel time passing. "Actions have consequences," he said. "Apologize or walk." Once I would have chosen apology, because marriage can teach you to confuse endurance with loyalty. Tonight I chose distance. I put one foot on the cracked pavement and gave him a gift he would not recognize until it was too late. Silence. I did not look back when he fishtailed a little on the way out, though I heard it and recorded it and filed it under exhibits that sound like karma. When his lights disappeared, I counted to 60, because plans work better when you lay them down like railroad ties, measured even unhurried. Then I walked toward the boarded-up gas station, where a black Ford waited with a man who looks more like me than anyone else on earth. "Did you get it?" Marcus asked, already holding an umbrella over me as if I were not the kind of woman who could stand in rain. Every word I said and handed him my phone. He said I should remember my place. Marcus's jaw set the way it did when we were kids, and he faced down a coach who thought girls do not get to bat cleanup. "Rebecca will eat this for breakfast," he said. "Get in. It is about to open up." The sky obliged. Rain came hard enough to erase the lines on the road. As we pulled away, I let myself imagine Andrew pouring a scotch he had not earned, sending a message he would later delete, believing he was a man who taught lessons. I unscrewed the top of the thermos and felt warmth flood my hands. "Valentina's ready," Marcus said. The moment he moved that 10,000 this afternoon, she traced it. The audit goes back 2 years. Offshore, onshore paper smoke mirrors. And Rebecca files at 9. Abandonment, financial abuse, fraud. I watched water run sideways across the windshield. 8 months ago, when he started turning down contracts with explanations that did not involve numbers, I hired a team and went quiet. I learned to hold my face still, while cameras in the ceiling blinked red and recorded what happened to women who ask where the money went. I learned that there is a room inside me, with a key Andrew will never find. The hotel lobby glowed the way sanctuaries glow, too bright, too clean, too polite to be real. Water dripped from my hair onto marble. The night clerk, a woman with a braid and eyes like good news, wrapped a towel around my shoulders as if she had been waiting for me to arrive from a story she already knew. "Are you all right?" she asked. "My husband left me at a rest stop," I said, letting my voice break along a seam that had given way long ago, in the storm. I walked until someone helped. Her face changed. Concern turned into something like fury she kept to herself. She handed me tea, wrote an incident report with the kind of precision that makes judges pay attention, and checked me in under my maiden name. In room 412, I locked the door and the chain, and the smaller chain beneath it, and listened to the sound of rain on glass. I played the recording. Andrew's voice filled the room cold and measured the way it got when he wanted to hear himself be a man. You think you are clever, he said, calling my accountant, asking questions about our finances, as if you would understand the answers. Our money. He laughed. I earn it. I manage it. You spend it on overripe tomatoes. I remembered the charity dinner, where he praised my poise to clients, then told me in the car that I had embarrassed him by mispronouncing a name I had said correctly. I remembered the night he handed me sleep aids and called it caring. My second phone buzzed. Marcus Valentina found 3 more in the Caymans. Transfers for 18 months. Rebecca Judge Coleman will hear us at 2. Bring the car audio. Bring the house footage. Bring your spine, I wrote. Not testimony, not yet. Not the careful legal language Rebecca would polish until it glowed in courtroom light. I wrote the story of myself in nouns I had forgotten belonged to me. Analyst, strategist, daughter, sister, woman who once turned down a promotion because she thought love meant letting the man fly while she built a runway he never landed on. The first voicemail came like a weather balloon, sent up to see which way the wind blows. Amanda, this is ridiculous. Lesson learned. Call me. The second was harder. The third meaner, the fourth bored. The fifth performative. The sixth dangerous. By midnight, his mother's number lit my screen. Then his partner, then a name I did not recognize until she spoke, and I smelled my own perfume from a dress I had not worn in months. Andrew wants you home, Nain, said reading from a script made of glass. He is sorry. Andrew does not apologize. Men who think cruelty is management do not practice repentance. I hung up and recorded the timestamps. Evidence does not get bored. It accumulates. At 2:30, Mrs. Chin from next door texted to say she had seen Andrew crawling under my car with a flashlight. He left fast. He will not find anything, I typed back. There is nothing left to find. I lay down fully clothed, because women in movies do that when they are about to become someone else. I watched lightning articulate the skyline and felt something in my chest rearrange itself into a shape that fit. By noon, the suite had turned into a war room that smelled like coffee and ink and inevitability. Valentina wheeled in 2 suitcases of paper, the handles creaking under the weight of bank statements and transfer slips and the kind of emails men write when they believe servers are loyal friends. We froze the Caymans at 9, she said. He tried 3 password attempts at dawn. He will tell himself he typed it wrong. He will tell himself the system is down. He will tell himself stories until the stories run out. Rebecca arrived speaking a language made of deadlines and statutes and the precise width of a judge's patience. She shut her phone, looked at me, and in one breath gave me back my name's original meaning. You are ready, she said. And he is not. Marcus connected the footage to the television. It hurt where I expected it to hurt. It surprised me where I did not. Andrew at 2 a.m. photographing documents I once held like a future. Andrew in our living room, telling a much younger woman that I had no spine and that Costa Rica could be a new start with better weather. I swallowed bile and thought of the lake house my grandmother left me, and the deed she signed with a pen that still smells like Christmas. Valentina laid a forged version beside the real one and traced differences with a capped pen. Once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Rebecca glanced at the clock. Time to go, she said. Bring your suit. Bring your quiet. We will do the talking. You do the looking like a woman who remembers she is not afraid. Courthouses are built to make people small. I chose a suit that refused. Navy sharp, clean a line down the sleeve like a promise kept. When I walked into courtroom 4B, Andrew looked like a man who had slept in yesterday's certainty and woke in today's news. All rise, the bailiff said, and everyone did what they were told except the part of Andrew that believed rules were for other people. Judge Patricia Coleman entered and took the bench like she had been born on it. She reviewed the docket. She looked over the tops of her glasses at a room that was already on the record, in more ways than one. We are here on an emergency petition, she said. Mrs. Mitchell alleges spousal abandonment and dissipation of marital assets. Blackwood, the attorney Andrew hired, when he decided he was the kind of man who could afford sharks, asked for more time. Denied, said Judge Coleman, the word falling like a gavel. Counselor, present your evidence. Rebecca pressed play. My husband's voice filled the courtroom space with cold weather. You need a lesson, he said. Andrew went very still. It is a tell I used to mistake for control. Really, it is a tell that means a man cannot find his script. Furthermore, Rebecca said the way a surgeon says scalpel, Mr. Mitchell has been hiding assets, offshore accounts, transfers without spousal consent, embezzlement from client funds. Here exhibits A through F. Blackwood stood to object. The judge looked down at the stack of paper like a woman considering the menu and chose certainty. Mr. Mitchell, she said, did you leave your wife at a rest stop in a storm? He tried to breathe the air out of the room. He tried to smile the smile that closes deals with men who pretend to be friends. He failed. Yes, he said. But she had her phone. How considerate, Judge Coleman replied. Motion for continuance denied. Emergency injunction granted. All marital assets frozen. Exclusive use of the home to Mrs. Mitchell. Temporary support awarded. Restraining order granted. Andrew forgot how courtrooms work and raised his voice at a woman who had seen every kind of man try what he was trying. $10,000 a month, he said. That is ridiculous. Sit, said the judge. And he did because even men like Andrew recognize gravity when it is wearing a robe. The back doors opened. Federal agents entered with faces that say nothing and eyes that say everything. The man from the Securities and Exchange Commission introduced himself. We have a warrant for Andrew Mitchell, he said. The judge asked them to wait until she finished. They stood in the back like punctuation that had already been decided. On our way out, a woman in a wrinkled designer dress pushed through the doors and shouted a lie she had believed. You said you were divorced. She waved her phone, a tiny screen full of promises that never lived long enough to be true. The federal agent's eyes lit in the way evidence lights them. Outside microphones multiplied like spring dandelions. Rebecca's palm found my elbow. No comment, she said, and I let the words lift me through the crowd. My phone vibrated with messages that swung between congratulations and disbelief, pity and awe, a map of how communities respond when the boy wonder falls. Back at the hotel, the city hummed with appetite. News vans idled. Andrew's mugshot rotated on screens with scrolling banners that used words like alleged and scheme and collapse. I poured water and did not spill a drop. The next 24 hours unspooled, like thread from a spool you did not know was in your pocket. Andrew's partner called with the voice of a man who has been awake too long and seen too much. There is more, he said. He had targeted widows. He had forged power of attorney. He had told an elderly woman she was misplacing her own memory and called it kindness. Jennifer called. My sister, the one with a laugh that used to sound like safety. She brought emails, every one of them printing out 12 months of manipulation that looked like concern. She told me about debts, about the way a man like Andrew can turn rescue into leverage. She told me he had asked her to get our mother to sign something that would have taken the roof our father built and slid it into Andrew's hands. We drove to the memory care facility on Hennepin, where my mother had more clear days than anyone predicted, because stubbornness is a form of love. She gave me a key to a box my father had filled before he died. Documents, notes in his handwriting, copies of things Andrew tried to make disappear. He will try to take everything my father wrote. Do not let him. Marcus took photographs careful and fast. Valentina Cross referenced. Rebecca drafted motions with language that sounds like thunder and means shelter. That afternoon, the federal agent returned my call. A larger investigation had been running for 3 years, he said. A network, a pattern. Andrew's name had come up before. I hung up and stood very still in a room that felt smaller than it had when I first locked the door. Cruelty is not creative. It repeats itself with new wardrobes. The trial came 4 months later, with a season change and a wardrobe update, and a calm I did not know I could carry. The courtroom was the same shape, just bigger. The charges did not need adjectives. wire fraud, conspiracy, abuse. Witnesses told the story of what had happened when Andrew was given trust. He had turned it into profit that did not belong to him. He had turned it into flights taken on miles that vanished and gifts purchased with other people's tomorrows. Valentina testified like math is a language anyone can learn if they are tired of being lied to. Marcus cued surveillance from our home. Rebecca questioned a woman who used to wear my grandmother's pearls and now wore her own regret like a coat she would not take off even when the room got warm. On the 12th day, Andrew decided he could talk his way out. He sat on the stand and tried to narrate a world where he was misunderstood and I was dramatic and his elderly clients were forgetful on cue. The prosecutor did not even need to be cruel. He just pressed play. The verdict came back faster than hope had taught me to expect. Guilty on all counts. When the judge read the sentence, her voice did not rise or fall. It landed. Years. No early release. Conditions that pin a man to the consequences he handed other people like name tags. On the courthouse steps, fall sunlight felt like a ribbon around a new name for the season. I took a breath that went all the way down. The whistleblower award arrived printed on paper that felt heavier than the money it represented. I did not celebrate. I signed leases. Marcus found a Victorian with good bones and better locks. We wired it for safety and filled it with chairs that do not wobble and tissues that do not fall apart. We called it the Phoenix Foundation because sometimes you are required to be on the nose. Women walked in carrying bags. Children silenced the exact weight of hope they could manage. We gave them coffee and copies and a plan that made room for the parts of the plan that would go wrong. Valentina taught a class called Where Did It Go?, explaining money in a way that made it come back. Rebecca wrote restraining orders like hymns. Marcus installed panic buttons and drilled every staff member on what to do when a door opens too fast. Jennifer showed up with donuts and apologies. She came back with clean tests and a voice that can sit beside shame and say, "I know how you got here," without letting it turn into a bed. Even Nain came smaller, quieter, older in the ways that matter. She spoke to students about power and promises. She did not excuse herself. She told the truth because it is easier to breathe when you stop holding your breath for applause. On a clear afternoon, my mother rode the elevator up and walked the halls looking at framed photographs of women who changed their last names to something like Free. She touched the glass and smiled, like the way out is a path you can memorize and leave a light on for. A letter came from prison, written in the penmanship of a boy who grew into a man who thought neat lines could justify crooked choices. He hoped I had learned my lesson. I framed the last page and hung it where sunlight hits in the morning and makes the ink fade a little every day. Lessons, it turns out, can be repurposed. 18 months after the night Andrew left me at the rest stop, rain came again, softer now, like a hand smoothing a sheet. I stood at my office window and watched the city take it without flinching. On the wall behind me, thank you cards made a bright patchwork. 87 clients in various stages of getting their names back. A widow named Eleanor. One of Andrew's targets funded our shelter program and spoke at our first gala with her hair set and her eyes bright. "That man tried to convince me I was losing my mind," she said. Amanda showed me I was finding my strength. I thought about the rest stop and the way the wind felt when I stepped into it. I thought about the lesson Andrew believed he was teaching and the curriculum I wrote instead. People think storms come to end things. Sometimes storms come to make everything visible.